Thank you, Megan. Good morning and welcome to the DAC Monthly Webcast. It's November 12th, 2020. I'm Jennifer Stafford. I'm the Director in the Division of Assessment and Accountability Support, and we welcome you to today's broadcast. We appreciate you being here with us and the time that you're spending with us today. We know your time is so valuable, and we appreciate you being with us very much. Today we have with us several of our consultants within the Division of Assessment and Accountability Support with many important updates. The agenda for today will include several topics. We also have with us Ben Riley. Ben Riley is with us. He is the newest member of our Division of Assessment and Accountability Support team. He is going to bring to us updates on the K-Screen assessment. We have Shara Savage with us, who, as you all know, Shara now, she's been with us for over a year now, manages the ACT and has some important updates for us on the ACT as well as the end of course assessments. Everyone knows Kevin O'Hare is, he's a long-standing, valuable part of our division. He's going to bring some updates to us with alternate assessment. And Jenny Larkins is taking the control of the DAC info. She is going to be asking our questions for us today. So if you have questions for us, please email dacinfo@education.ky.gov. We have conflicts this afternoon with Pam Powers and Chris Williams. They are presenting the Administration Code and Inclusions of Special Populations training. So Pam couldn't be with us today on the broadcast. So Jenny has volunteered to field your questions for us today. So again, if you have questions, she will be fielding those, and we'll pause along the way to take your questions. And Helen Jones is with us as well. She is advancing our slides. So Helen, if you would go to the agenda and the topics. As I mentioned, we have several updates for you today. We'll start with the update from the Special Board of Education meeting, happened last Friday, and want to bring you up to date and share some important resources with you on that. We'll have an update of the current status of our state assessments. Not a lot of changes for you since the last time we talked, but we're getting a lot of questions, and I wanted to address those situations where we are now. As I mentioned, Ben Riley will start us out with K-Screen reports and important reminders. He'll turn it over to Kevin O'Hare with the alternate assessment reminders, and then Shara will finish us out with end of course and ACT reminders. And again, we will have your questions along the way and answers as we know them at this point. So let's get started. We had a very productive discussion with the Kentucky Board of Education on November 6th, and that discussion was primarily on the new accountability system. As has been discussed in recent DAC Monthly Webcast and Communications, Senate Bill 158 of the 2020 General Assembly changed the assessment and accountability system for the future. And we're working through those changes and the impact that it will have on the accountability regulation. So Helen, if you'll move to the first slide, or the next slide, we've got this timeline that will step the Kentucky Board of Education toward long-term systems, whether it is the accountability system or the assessment system. We have these steps that we're going to take over the next several months to get the Kentucky Board of Education where they want to be and where the state needs to be with both of those systems. As you'll note by the green arrow in November, we had a very robust conversation with the board on the accountability system. It was a working session that many topics were presented to the board. So that's the first step in the development of the state accountability system. The next step will be in December when we take to the Kentucky Board of Education a draft regulation. It will be the first read of a draft regulation. Before we get to December, though, we have a couple of weeks here that we will be talking with several advisory committees. There are two very important governor-appointed committees. SCAC is the School Curriculum Assessment and Accountability Committee that meets next Tuesday. We look forward to their input on the topics that we discussed with the board. We also have LSAC, the Local Superintendent Advisory Committee, that meets the following week. We'll talk with both of those advisory committees, and also we do have our DACs have a DAC advisory committee that we look forward to talking with them on some of their input on the accountability system. After we gather that feedback, and we are receiving feedback from others that have input on the accountability system, we are fielding emails now from the most recent discussion. So we are gathering feedback from across all shareholders on the accountability system. So we'll gather all that information from all of our important partners, discuss with the Kentucky Board of Education in December at their regular board meeting updates to the regulation. Now that regulation has to be updated because it's out of alignment with the statute because of the changes brought about by Senate Bill 158. So that anytime there's a change to the statute that gets the regulation out of alignment, we have to redo or update the regulation so that it is in alignment with the statute. Now, at that same December board meeting, we're going to talk about the assessments, and the Kentucky Board of Education is very interested in the assessment system. So we'll talk with them about future assessments as well as what we're doing now. There is discussion with the Kentucky Board of Education that they may change their processes on regulations. Currently, they have in their policies that there is a first and second read of a regulation. They are considering to remove that second read. So that could impact this time frame that we have here on this slide that we've used with the board and with many of our presentations throughout the past few months. So if the board decides that they want to remove that second read and only have one read of a regulation, then the time frame would move more quickly toward the approval of a regulation for our accountability system. So we look forward to the board meeting in December to see how that decision impacts our regulation, because again, it could move more quickly. In February, we will continue the discussion on assessments in the design with the Kentucky Board of Education. So we're moving along two paths where we're talking about accountability and we're talking about assessments, and look forward to those long-term systems design. Now, is the topics that we discussed with the Kentucky Board of Education include four big topics. The first one was the intersection of status and change. Each of the indicators in the Senate Bill 158, it talked about the fact that there is status and change required for each of our indicators. So each of our indicators will be reported on status and change. And how we bring that together into a measure and report it is very important. And we're going to show you an example of what we're demonstrating to the board on how we would bring together both status and change for every indicator. The second big topic for the board on Friday was the combining of the school performance into an overall score and a rating. At the board, we discussed some of their desires. We talked about weights. The board gave us some indication about the weights. Coming out of that board meeting, there wasn't a specific recommendation from the board on weights and pulling that together. But what we did hear was a few things of importance. One being that the board had some discussion about the different levels, elementary, middle, and high, and whether or not those should be similar weights or different weights at each of those levels. The board previously had decided that elementary and middle schools levels would have the same weights. There was some discussion that those weights should be different at elementary and middle and high. So that could be a change for us in the bringing together all of the accountability weights. The Lieutenant Governor had some input on those. She is a teacher and she is very interested in the accountability system. So we're going to talk again with the board in December about those weights and what they could be moving forward. The next big topic from the November 6th special board meeting was English learners and the progress toward English language proficiency. There are flexibilities within the Every Student Succeeds Act that is federally approved, and we got indication from the board very strongly that they want to see those flexibilities included in our accountability system. One of the proposals that we discussed with the board was maybe using a growth value table, similar to the growth value table that we use now currently for growth, only modified a bit for students that come in with interrupted schooling, low proficiency levels upon entry, and the age in which they come in. So those are three flexibilities that they gave specific direction for the department to go and seek ways to include those flexibilities into our accountability system. The last huge topic that we talked about was the minimum in count for inclusion of students and student groups within the accountability system. The inclusion of student and student groups comes into play specifically when we're including indicators within the accountability system, as well as the student population within the different student demographic groups as it pertains to the identification of targeted support and improvement, as well as additional targeted support and improvement. So the minimum in becomes very important when we're talking about identifying those schools for those federal classifications. So they had a robust discussion on that. They didn't come to a clear, specific direction, but gave us the indication to come back in December for further discussion. So, Helen, if you would move to the next slide. I wanted you to get comfortable with a 5x5 colored table. You're going to see a lot of these over the next several years as we move toward a new accountability system. So a 5x5 colored table will be a way to communicate by indicator how the school, district, or state is doing on the performance of each of those indicators. So you can imagine that this table is colored in, that each of those cells that are currently white would have a color within those. You know, some would be red, some would be orange, some would be yellow, others would be green and blue. So there was a lot of discussion at the board meeting on Friday as to which of these colors, these cells should be which color, because it's a value. You know, what do you place value on? Do you place value on very high performance of status, or do you place value on very high performance of change? And which one of those balances? So I want to introduce you to a color table 5 by 5 because this color table will be a way that we communicate by indicator how the school district and state is performing on each of the indicators. And you'll note here, I've put it on the slide for you from Senate Bill 158 and how it specifically says a color-coded performance level by each state indicator shall be displayed in a straightforward manner. So we'll use the school report card and dashboards to be able to communicate by indicator. But again, this is a sample of a 5 by 5 table. And if you could imagine it filled in with different colors and so forth. So again, a way to communicate the results by indicator. Helen, if you'll move to the next slide, please. The materials that were used during the Kentucky Board of Education were shared in the Monday DAC email a few days ago, so you have access to those, but they're linked here for you as well. The PowerPoint that was used and then the paper that was used for discussion in that document has some really good information that as DACs or BACs you could use to help you communicate to your leadership in your district on the discussions. And again, we have a lot more to decide and to seek feedback from the Kentucky Board of Education. If you are interested in hearing that discussion, it is on the portal and you have links here specifically to the Kentucky Board of Education meeting. And you can hear the concepts that the board and their thinking and their values. We got from the board during that discussion, we got a lot of their conceptual thinking that goes into the accountability system. So we're going to continue to work with the board in future meetings to develop that and get that type of system that they are seeking in place. Okay, Helen, if you would, let's move along to state assessments and talk about where we are currently with our state assessments. Previously, in previous DAC webcasts, we've shared that current Secretary of Education, Betsy DeVos, has shared a letter with chief state school officers and indicated that states should prepare for an assessment and assessments in spring of 21. So that is exactly what the Department of Education in Kentucky is doing. We are preparing for spring assessments in 21. We are in communication with the U.S. Department of Education officials, and they are in a pattern of saying that we should continue to prepare for state assessments. Now, we did have an election since our last time that we talked in October, and we will have new leadership in Washington. So at this point, the President-elect Biden has not appointed anyone for the Secretary of Education. At this point, he is looking at the leadership in health organizations and leading the efforts on the pandemic. When he gets to the appointment of the Secretary of Education, then we could possibly get more guidance. But until that happens, we are in the state of preparation for spring of 21. So at that, with that, we are working with our assessment vendors on many options for spring of 21. We are currently working with Pearson and the alternate UK with the alternate K-Prep, and we are having multiple plans. We have a plan A, we have a plan B, we have a plan D, C, and E right now. So we're working very diligently to be prepared in whatever situation that we are in at that point. So the department officials, when we're talking with them, they continue to say, we're not in a place that we can give you specific direction at this point, because there is federal requirements on state testing and state accountability that link to our title funds. And with our need in the state for those title funds, we don't want to put anything in jeopardy from those. So we're working with them, we're staying in touch with them, and advocating on behalf of our schools and districts. Now, our board chair, Chair Lou Young, Kentucky Board of Education Chair Lou Young, has indicated that she would support any flexibilities that are given or offered by the U.S. Department of Education. So we would push toward any of those flexibilities and request flexibilities if they're offered by the U.S. Department of Education. But again, we're still in the same position that we were with the DeVos letter. We're going to talk with the Kentucky Board of Education in December and get more information and their guidance toward Spring 21 assessments. But right now, what the department is doing is working with our assessment vendors on those multiple plans for spring of 21. Some of the topics where we're discussing with them are the format of the assessments. We're talking, pushing specifically for online assessments when it comes to K-Prep. We're talking with our assessment vendor Pearson and UK to talk about the time frame. There is some room to look at how much time that the actual assessment takes and push toward possibly a smaller, reduced assessment so that it wouldn't take as much time for the students to actually take an assessment, if that. So with that, we're in a position that right now with our numbers, many of our school and districts in our counties are in increasing in number of cases with COVID. And we are uncertain about where the state and our nation will be in the spring of 21. So we're not able to make concrete, definite plans on spring 21 assessments because we're just not there, and we're not able to put concrete plans in place, but we are preparing. We do know that the U.S. Department of Education's requirement on 95% participation is still there. It has not been waived yet. And I even put the date there in that sub-bullet because of that of November 12th, as of November 12th. So that's the situation we are at this point. It could change if there were offered waivers or flexibilities that we would seek those. But at this point today, as of 11/24, those have not been offered yet. We are also working with a non-participation within SDRR for a COVID-19 exemption. This was referenced specifically in Shara Savage's training on the ACT test administration, that there would be some exemptions or non-participation for students who at the time of testing are not participating in in-person assessments. So as we move toward and train for our spring 21 assessments, we'll have more information about what that COVID-19 exemption would look like. But we're in the same situation that we were previously, and we are seeking advice and information from the U.S. Department of Education and actively participating in national our national organizations. So, Jenny, I have talked here for a good amount of time, for a fair amount of time. So let me pause at this point to see, do you have any questions that come in yet about the progress on the accountability regulation or the state assessments?
Yes, we have one question about accountability. Is there any light you could shed on the growth component and what that might look like?
Sure, I can. The Senate Bill 158, if you read specifically in that, it says the state indicators shall exclusively include state assessment results. It says state assessment results, progress on EL for our English learners. It has the quality of school climate and safety, transition readiness, as well as post-secondary readiness. Those 5 specific indicators, and graduation rate. Those 6 specific indicators will be within the accountability system. That word exclusively limits the amount of indicators that can be within the accountability system, growth not being one of those. Instead, what they did is they put in change. Now, change is not the same thing as growth, because growth is individual for individuals from one year to the next. What the regulation, or what what that bill did is it put in status and change. Status is the current year performance within that indicator, and change is the change from one year to the prior year in that indicator. So change is based on the indicator, where growth would be on the individual student. So the Senate Bill 158 removed growth, but instead inserted change. Now, one other piece that we'll note, and if you watch the Kentucky Board of Education meeting, for the progress on English language proficiency for our English learners, it does have individual student growth will be within that indicator. So growth for our English learners on an English learner proficiency assessment will be included. So Jenny, have you received any other questions at this point?
Yes, we actually have had a couple of questions come in around testing.
Okay.
The first one is, has there been any discussion around extending the window for access testing?
So at this point, we do have a window, and it is a quite large window of time. We have the opportunity for our schools and districts to administer it over a period of several weeks. So that's an indication of hopefully we'll get into the and be able to assess everyone at that point. Hopefully our numbers and our infection rate goes down. And at that point, we will have a more students, and our community in our state can get back to a more normal state. If we need to, we may reevaluate that at that time.
Thank you. One other question on testing. Are you still planning on holding a social studies field test?
That is part of the plan. So that A through E, yes, that's part of the plan. So yes, thank you for asking that.
Mm-hmm. And that's all for now, Jennifer.
Okay, well, it gives me great pleasure to introduce to you our newest consultant. We are so happy to have Ben Riley. Ben comes to us out of the classroom. He has been a kindergarten teacher for many years in eminent independent. So we are fortunate to have him as a part of our division and our team here in the Division of Assessment and Accountability Support. I hope you get a chance to interact with him. You are absolutely going to just appreciate him very much. So Ben, I'm going to turn it over to you for your first time, and certainly not the last, on a monthly DAC Webcast.
Thank you, Jennifer. Hello, everyone. So as Jennifer introduced me, I am the new K-Screen consultant, and I look forward to working with all of our DACs to have a successful K-Screen experience. Today, I wanted to take the opportunity so I could introduce myself so you could see a face and know who is helping you. Additionally, I just wanted to give a reminder about regular report checks to ensure a successful K-Screen process. Thank you. Perfect. We're on the next slide. And as many of our districts are working towards completing the K-Screen process, it's really important to remember to perform periodic K-Screen reports to ensure that data is being input into both the online management system and Infinite Campus. The two reports that are most helpful for DACs in completing this process are the Screened Not Screened report located in the OMS and the Early Learning Prior Settings report, which is an ad hoc report in Infinite Campus. You can find directions to run both those reports on our K-Screen website. They will additionally be sent out in the November K-Screen update, so you can easily find them. The Screened Not Screened report allows you to verify the students who have had the Brigance K-Screen data and self-help and social emotional skills survey input into the online management system. It also allows you to clean up duplicate entries, which happens on occasion. On our K-Screen website, we also have guidance for how to remove those duplicate entries, and you can find it there. The Early Learning Prior Settings report, as I said earlier, is an ad hoc report in Infinite Campus, which will allow you to identify which students you have entered prior settings information for. And also this year, we are asking that for students who were retained, that you enter prior settings information for them as well. You can enter that into Infinite Campus by selecting the option labeled Other, and then input the pertinent information, including the name of the school, the enrollment dates, and the school address. And until further notice, we are letting the K-Screen window remain open, and I really do appreciate all the DACs I've gotten to work with so far. I appreciate your hard work and cooperation through this uncertain time and pandemic. So thank you, and I'm going to go ahead and transition it over to Kevin O'Hare to talk about alternate assessment. Thank you.
Thanks, Ben. And just to reiterate Jennifer's comments earlier, we are super excited to have Ben join our team. He just the amount of time that we've had to spend with him and get to know him and his abilities. He is just doing wonderful things, and I know that all of you will enjoy that transition and the ability to work with Ben as we continue to move forward. So welcome, Ben, and we look forward to all that's to come. So I'll be brief today. I just want to share some reminders, no new information to share out today, just some reminders on what's already out there and posted. So the first thing I want to talk about, Helen, if you can go on to the slide 13, please. The first thing I want to talk about is just a recap of the online training system, or the OTS. That's the site where teachers take their quizzes. It's also for our high school teachers at grade 11, where they access the transition attainment record, load any of the animated videos that'll be used for testing during the attainment task windows. So that's what the function of the online training system is. The Student Registration Database, or SRD, as you may know it, houses scores from the attainment task windows, both 1 and 2. It's also the location where we'll include score entry for the transition attainment record at high school, as well as survey results this year from the Quality of School Climate and Safety Survey. The Career Readiness Database, or CRD, will house scores for any student who has completed the employability skills attainment record. Maybe you know it as the ESAR, or the career work experience certification, CWEC. and have results to be submitted there. I can tell you that the online training system, that process, the registration process, is up and running. We shared out a special alternate assessment email on September the 11th that had specific guidance on everyone who would be involved with the alternate assessment this year. Everyone who will be involved with the alternate assessment this year would need to complete a registration. And so the reason for this update here is I've been getting a lot of questions about not being able to access the system. Just please encourage your teachers to go back to that September 11th alternate assessment email, that special alternate assessment email, and review that information there about the registration process. It's very, very it's very easy to complete. It takes a couple of minutes at best for them to do, and that'll give them access as well. So Helen, do you want to move on to the next slide, please? Another important reminder is the trainings that have been released for the transition attainment record for grade 11, or if you have grade 12 or 14 students, those who are the lead on their administration will need to be trained as well. The overview or attainment task training opened last Monday, November 2nd. It will remain open until February 10th and must be completed by any certified staff member who plans to administer an attainment task. Something you're not going to see on the slide here, but I do want to just share as a reminder, is that any district who will need VI materials for students who are visually impaired or have a visual disability for Window 1, for the Window 1 attainment task. If you have not submitted your student listing yet, that deadline is approaching. Now, it's December the 11th is the last date to get those names submitted or the SSID number submitted to us. But we have holiday in between then and many other things coming up. So just keep that on your radar if you have students that will need those supplemental materials for Window 1. If you need specific information around that, go back and revisit the Monday DAC email that was shared out on November 2nd. So last Monday, November 2nd's Monday DAC email. And as I noted, these are just some important reminders that I wanted to share with everyone. I know you're extremely busy right now and have so much going on. So I just wanted to remind these, keep these on our radar. Please know that everything you do, we truly appreciate. You guys go above and beyond to do the job, to provide the best resources and guidance for your students and for your teachers, and we commend you for that and all the great work that you do. So that's all I have. Now we'll turn to Jenny Larkins for any case screen or alternate assessment questions that she might have. Jenny?
Thank you, Kevin. We do not have any alternate assessment or case screen questions at this time.
All right. So job well done, Ben. I think we done. Either we put them to sleep or they. All right. Well, at this time, we will turn things over to Shara Savage to give us some important information and updates on end of course. So, Shara.
Thank you, Kevin. Good morning, everyone. I have a few EOC updates and announcements for you today. The deadline to order EOC exams is this Friday, November the 13th. The EOC training materials, the video and PowerPoint and guidance document have been updated and are posted to the KDE website. The directions on how to run the ad hoc ordering reports within Infinite Campus is included in the ordering guidance document and the training video. The first testing window is November 30th, starts November 30th and runs through December the 11th. I will ship all testing materials on Thursday, November the 19th with overnight shipping. The materials will arrive at the district office on Friday, November the 20th. I do ask you to please inventory the materials within 48 hours once you've received your order to ensure that you have the correct test booklets requested for each student. Now, it'll be a little different this year. The shipment will only include the inventory sheet and the test booklets. Your teacher administration manual, electronic answer document, and the irregularity report will be sent electronic to you. So speaking of the electronic answer document, I am pleased to announce that the EOC electronic answer document training is now available. The link is posted for you here in this slide and in the note section of this PowerPoint. Each is linked for your convenience. Please ensure that this information is shared with your testing staff. Okay. Now let's move on to some ACT reminders. OAA and ACT are partnering to offer DACs and testing staff with open office hours. The first office hour will be Thursday, November the 19th at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. A regular Microsoft Teams meeting will be the platform for the meeting. A link to the meeting will be included in the upcoming Monday DAC email. DACs, BACs, and TCs will be able to ask questions and receive assistance during this time. If testing staff were unable to attend the training last Thursday, November the 5th, the PowerPoint document that guided the training, as well as the recording of the training session, is now available and is posted to the preparation stage of the ACT hosted state testing website for you. Now, additionally, the KDE and the ACT guidance document has been published on the KDE webpage. That provides guidance. That guidance document provides answers to many of the questions from the training. Some of the information in the guidance document is general in nature. As more information becomes available, we will communicate during the ACT and OAA office hours and in future DAC communications. Now let's move on to some deadlines for the ACT. As a reminder, now through November 30th, DACs or BACs needs to complete the Select a Test Date task in PAN. This is a required step and should only take a few minutes of your time to complete. Step 1, we want you to select your test dates and your shipping dates in PAN. Verify your shipping address in PAN, and if your address has changed, please submit an address change request form. If the address needs to be updated, this form can be located in the PAN user guide. And then that'll be submitted to ACT, but also I ask that you send an email to myself, shara.savage@education.ky.gov, if you have a change in address as well. Now, I just want to reiterate the deadline to complete these tasks is Monday, November 30th. Now, please note, if you do not select a test date, you will be marked as not participating, and you will not receive future email communications or materials from ACT. Okay, so that concludes all the updates and information I have at this time. And Jenny, do we have any questions?
We do have one ACT question, Shara.
Okay.
We would like to do paper for test window 1, but online for test window 2, the makeup window. Do I need to indicate paper as well as online for our participation, or do I wait and say online after we do the initial test?
I would just go ahead and mark both in the participation. That way, if you need those extra testing dates during window 1 that'll be available to you, and as well as the makeup date. So I encourage you to do both initially.
Thank you, Shara. That's all the ACT questions. We do have one additional question for Jennifer, if she's available to answer.
Jenny, before you get to that one, Shara, I want to go back to that question that you just answered about the paper and the online.
Mm-hmm.
Can the schools do paper and online during window 1?
Yes, they can do a combination. They can test one student with paper and the rest online, or they can test online with one student and the rest on paper. There is numerous combinations available to them during test window 1 and their makeup window as well.
So to help with the numbers of students that are in the building at one time, schools could use the multiple days of paper and online testing that is offered by ACT during window 1, during window 2, during window 3.
Yes, that it will help with those bringing in. If say you are still all virtual come spring, it will help with those bringing in those small groups. It'll help better manage that for you. So we highly recommend that you do what as I answered the question, mark paper and online. That way you're prepared to bring in small groups if needed. It's just much more manageable with the pandemic going on.
Good, thank you. So that brings a lot of flexibilities to our high schools that are trying to manage giving the students the opportunity to take ACT, as well as keeping them safe and our staff safe as well. So
exactly.
That's a really good question, and I'm glad that it was asked, because there are many possibilities with that online testing.
Yes, and remember, new for our state this year, you can also utilize the accommodations online as well. So you don't have to do just paper. I know the accommodations paper does offer, a lot of dates, but you can also utilize the online for accommodations this year as well.
Great. So we encourage, as you hear Shara and I saying, we do encourage you to think about and think differently as the administration unfolds this year. So we encourage you to take every opportunity to utilize those flexibilities that are being offered.
Exactly.
Good. Jenny, I didn't mean to rush that, but I wanted to make that point pretty strongly, that there are ways that the ACT can be utilized, both paper and online. So didn't mean to cut you off there, but wanted to make that point.
No,
so
that's
Jenny,
great. I'm glad you emphasized that. We have had another question come in regarding that same topic, if you don't mind.
Yes.
Can I do paper on multiple days as long as I have paper, pencil, and online marked? And I'm assuming they mean multiple days within one window, but they didn't specify.
Okay, so paper, the standard paper test is only available for the first Tuesday in that window. So paper, you don't have the flexibility. So that's why we're having this discussion today. And as you'll see in the training, we emphasize that as well. So again, we're highly recommending that when you go into managed participation, that you are selecting paper and online, because we don't know what the spring will look like. I'm praying and hoping that it looks better than it does today, but we want to be prepared for whatever unfolds come this spring with the test. So you, again, go in, do your managed participation, and select paper and online. because you only have one day with the standard paper in the testing window, and that'll be that Tuesday.
And that's you have 1 day per window for
Yes,
paper.
1 day. Yeah, 1 day per window.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Shara. Don't run off. You have one other question.
Sure.
Can the
Great.
November 5th ACT training recording and PowerPoint links be posted on the KDE assessment page or sent out to DACs?
They are available on the state ACT hosted website, and the link is available in the PowerPoint notes for you.
In this PowerPoint?
I do believe so.
Okay.
Yes.
And that was shared this morning in the special DAC email.
Yes. And or if you have trouble, just email me and I can help you, assist you as well.
Thank you, Shara. Jenny, are there any other questions?
There is an accountability question for you, Jennifer, if we can go back to that. Is there a possibility that the color codes would replace the 5 stars?
That's a really good question, and thank you for asking that. Yes, there is possibility that the stars will be replaced. On the November 6th special DAC email, we did have a discussion with the board about that overall rating. So we talked with them about the weights to come in and bring everything together, and we talked about then that reporting feature. We got a clear indication from the board that they did not want to use stars or any symbols. We got a clear indication that they do not want to use like numbers like 1 through 5 or anything like that. We did get indication that colors the colors are desirable option. So that will be part of the discussion at the December Kentucky Board of Education meeting, what specifically they want to use for accountability moving forward. For accountability this year, we have, again, that DeVos letter that indicated that states should be prepared to provide an assessment. In that letter, accountability for 2021 was not addressed. So we feel like that there may be a door opening there for possibly some waivers. So again, we will look forward to the discussion and further guidance from the U.S. Department of Education. Do we have any other questions before we turn it over to Kevin?
No additional questions.
Okay, thank you. We have had an unfortunate, very unfortunate happening within our office. We've lost a member of our team, a very critical, vital member of the OAA family. Michael Henderson, many of you all know as Hindo, passed away. And we've lost a dear colleague and friend, and it's left a hole within our office, and we want to remember him and honor him with sharing a memory of him. So Kevin, if you would, I'm going to turn it over to you, and at this point I'll say thank you to everyone that participated today. So Kevin, I'll turn it over to you.
All right, thanks, Jennifer. And Helen, if you could advance to the next slide, please. As Jennifer noted, this is a very sad time for our office as we have encountered a tragic loss to our OA family. But we're very, very happy for the friendship and the memories that we're going to continue to cherish forever. Michael Henderson, known to the OA team as Hindo, has been a vital member of our family since 2007. Hindo was not one that you saw often in trainings or heard him discuss data on a webcast. That just really wasn't his thing. But you can guarantee he was part of the process that got us to that point. As the slide shows, as you read the information that's provided on it, Hindo was definitely a tech guru who could write programs, analyze data, and one of his ultimate joys was simply to break things. He loved to break things. If you needed something broken, Hindo was your guy. Typically, when we would introduce a new program or we would introduce a database where we were trying to make sure it's secure, it was going to function correctly, we would turn Hindo loose on it. And I often remember his feedback was only this: pretty good program, I couldn't break it. So that was he was a man of few words, but he definitely knew what the process was. Many of you may have had the opportunity to meet Hindo on one of our site visits. He really enjoyed the site visits as far as meeting the DACs and BACs. He wasn't big on asking the questions. He didn't care much for asking questions. He didn't care to drive when you were carpooling to get there, but he would rather not ask the questions. One quick story. I shared a story on our alternate assessment call this past Tuesday that Hindo had been a part of that call for probably 7 or 8 years. He was our data guy. He went in and helped when you were had rosters pulled from Infinite Campus and uploaded into the SRD. That was Hindo. When you had students that was being collected to show which students you had in what particular school, that was Hindo. So he was an integral part of the alternate assessment and a part of that call. And I remember one day we were just chatting at lunch, and I said, Hindo, what's your favorite part of the call? Kind of trying to be funny. And his response was his favorite part of the call was when it ended. That was his favorite part. He was a very funny guy who was always happy to help. So his passing was very unexpected to all of us. I'm sure we would have kept him here 100 years if we could have, but I'm confident that Hindo lived his life exactly the way he chose to. Though he will physically no longer be in the office, he will always be part of the OAA family. So rest easy, Hindo. Jennifer, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Kevin. That was very, very touching, and we appreciate you honoring him in that way. And to our district assessment coordinators, we appreciate you very much and all that you do. Stay safe, stay healthy, and we will see you in December at the next DAC monthly webcast. Have a happy Thanksgiving. We'll see you next month.